Hola Madridistas, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be a Real podcast. If you guys are new here, don't forget to smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 4K. Big up our sponsors as always, Talksport Fan Network. Obviously, Talksport, the biggest sports radio station in the world. Everything on LBR is powered by the Talksport Fan Network. Also, go check out Fanatics, official partners of La Liga and Real Madrid. Make sure you use our affiliated link in the description below so that they know you came through us. But yeah, Clasico out of the way. Second proper test. There were a lot of question marks. Will we adapt? Will we have the leadership to actually navigate a side that won't give us much control? We have seen, for the first 3 months under Xabi Alonso, that we are a team that is very reliant on having control and a team that really thrives on control. We'll get into all that. We navigated it pretty well. I think our players showed a lot of balls, a lot of guts. In situations that required it, and yeah, there were some lapses in concentration. This is a big game. This is the first Clasico for Hausen, first proper Clasico for Arda Güler. Although he, I think, featured in the second one towards the end of last season, but this was his, proper outing in the Clasico. Carreras as well. So we expected some mistakes and we saw some mistakes, but at the end of the day, this result means everything to the locker room, to Xabi Alonso's confidence. To give us an insight into what we can expect come March, April, May. Um, but before we delve into all that, I would like to touch upon, because I don't want to give this kid too much airtime, right? Lamine Yamal is an absolutely phenomenal prospect. Many people have really asked me, okay, as a rival fan, are you afraid of this kid, or like how intimidated do you get when you see that a man like how Messi was, during his early days, you know put so much fear into any team that plays them and whatnot. And Yamal has done that to a large extent, especially at such a tender age. He has really taken it into his stride and provided big goals in big games, big assists in big games for Barcelona. But the one thing I told them, the biggest difference between Yamal and the people that preceded him, the likes of Messi, the likes of Cristiano, you name it, even Neymar, for all their flashiness, for all their shenanigans, they tended to actually talk when it mattered on the pitch, and that was all it took, for them to really show what they were capable of. But Yamal, on the other hand, comes across as a very egoistic personality that puts himself first in front of the team. And like I've spoken to rival Barcelona mates that I have, and they're not really pleased with him. When they look at Yamal, they are concerned by his celebration where he's crowning himself, wearing the number 10 of Lionel Messi. He comes out and says stuff about Madrid, stuff about literally anyone. Basically, yeah, bringing more pressure onto himself, which I clearly don't think he can sustain, because as good as Yamal is, he doesn't have the finishing, required to be the greatest. To be talked about, not even in the likes of Cristiano Messi, but in the likes of Ribery, Robin, in the likes of Gareth Bale. I just don't think he has the quality to be, yapping this much. Because if I was him, if I knew the potential I had, and if I knew what I could do on the pitch, I would just, yeah, focus on the pitch and worry about what comes later. Because if you're a goal a game guaranteed player, maybe you can make those kind of bold statements and get away with it. But when you can't really, yeah, back that up, you come off across as a self entitled clown. I'm very very honest in this. We would like to see football thrive with such young talents. We have problems of our own in Vinicius, but the stick we give Vinicius, if Yamal did that, I'm pretty sure we would be calling for his head, literally. And I'm very glad that we are run by still not an ideal situation. Our dressing room, I have concerns about our dressing room and the way our leadership group handles some of the internal and the external issues we have surrounding the players. Yet, our our media um, management, and the way the club really makes players adhere to certain guidelines when they speak to the media, when they go out and do podcasts and whatnot. They really keep it at a buck. Very rarely have I seen even Marcelo after retirement, when he speaks about some of the battles he has had, the maturity that comes across from the players that have played for us. It's of a different level. So I completely understand why their own fans are concerned about Yamal. Uh, but yeah, man, let him hold that. Chouameni just literally said, I love when Lamine speaks. It motivates me. The match is played on the pitch. You can't put your own team and your own club and yourself under so much pressure days before you play probably the biggest game of the season yet. But it played right into our hands. The way Xabi Alonso and Carvajal looked on the sideline, spoke volumes and what this game meant to them, not just from a Clasico perspective, from you know just also from the perspective of, yeah, we need to shut up quite a few mouths that really doesn't have the you know the facilities to be making such statements. So I'm really glad, and really glad we got one over them. This ends our run of 4 consecutive losses. This would have been, if it went on to the fifth, the most bad and drought we have had since the 2008 2010, the prime Pep era. So this team is nowhere near that golden generation of Barcelona. So I'm pretty glad that we got it over the line. There were concerns during various points of the game where I thought, yeah, maybe this might slip away. This might be the case of, oh, here we go again. But thankfully, we saw it across the line. Over to you, Sahil. Talk to me. What is the vibe like? 5 points, clear atop, a very solid platform for us to build on.
Yeah, big relief, first of all. Pleased to be joined by you, Suned, for this post match. And like all of our supporters worldwide, I think beating Barcelona is probably not as much as they make it out to be when they win, a Clasico. But beating
Mm,
Barcelona is quite an achievement, especially when you know that it is a Barcelona side that you do respect for its ability and for its um, plethora of talent that it actually holds. Because last season, all of the Clásicos that were played across various domestic competitions, they commanded a lot of control, and rightly so, because Hansi Flick has built a Barcelona side that is not to be taken lightly, right? On the other hand, Real Madrid come through a season of change and into a season of transition. So there were already doubts about our big game, prowess, when the Atletico Madrid defeat came about, because that wasn't just any defeat; it was a 5-2 thrashing at home. Um, and that was not long ago. So if I might remind you, because
hmm
we've won pretty much every other game since we've played since the beginning of the season. It's just that one game that tricked us and was a thorn in our side, that made us doubt ourselves to into thinking, do these players really have it when it comes to the big test? Um, because it happened in preseason where PSG absolutely ran over us. Um, and then we were going through a little bit of a defensive crisis when it came to injuries. Some of our newer signings weren't, mostly fit. Um, Kylian Mbappe was the lone shining light throughout the season. The one player who has, since the beginning of the campaign, spearheaded our attack, brought the goals in, and once again today he was on fire in that first half. There is very little you can complain, about when it comes to some of the defensive and performances as well. Like Barcelona, to their credit, uh, were limited by Dean Hausen and Chouameni and Eder Militao. Uh, and for sure, like a Barcelona side with Rafinha and Lewandowski would have created a ton more chances. There is no doubting it. But at the end of the day, it's not like our defense is in its best shape either, right? This is pretty much a makeshift defense. Um, and when it comes to some of the off the pitch antics that you did mention, right? Uh, we also have um, a spoiled kid ourselves, right? we have Vinicius among our ranks, a player who likes to run his mouth, a player who is very passionate about the game. He doesn't shy away from showing that side of himself, time and again, regardless of if he's winning or if he's not winning on the pitch. That comes through his emotion and his, uh, you can call it sense of entitlement. Sometimes you can, call it a little bit of an attitude. Uh,
Since we're
but
on
at the
it,
end of the day,
do you think
yeah,
what he did is right and what he did was warranted?
no,
People in the group chat, like Rohit,
yeah,
he was mentioning, top players, they would get frustrated normally if they would feel like their substitution is unfair. Especially when they were having such a good game. We all saw that he was wrecking havoc down that left. Basically, yeah, cooking Kunde every time he had the ball. So
yeah.
I get that. I
Look,
get that. But this is a team sport, right? At the end of the day, this is a
absolutely,
team
absolutely.
that is reliant on more than 11 players, and I'm pretty sure, I've seen a lot of good players play for top sides throughout my time watching the game. And, even for my own club, like, Cristiano, like Bale,
Yeah,
they would obviously get frustrated, right? When they're having the rhythm they are, craving
they were
for,
lacking in previous games. Yes, for sure.
yeah. They would be frustrated, but nobody would actually throw a fit the way Vinicius
Yeah,
did and walk down the tunnel and basically, yeah, make a fool
yeah.
of himself. This
It's less
is
about
unprecedented
showing
behavior.
frustration.
Mm.
There's a difference between showing frustration and expressing disbelief when you actually get subbed off after after an electrifying 60-70 minutes of football, in what is possibly your best performance of the season so far. Um, and obviously he hasn't gotten anything to show for in terms of goals and assists. But anybody who watched that game with two eyes will tell you that Vinicius had um, an insane amount of impact in that first half, especially. Uh, so I don't think there's any disputing in the fact that what Xabi Alonso did was also, in a sense, right from his perspective for the team. But also Vinicius is more than entitled to feel hard done by that substitution, because you feel that he's a player in good momentum, and you feel that uh, Kylian Mbappe, after having scored a goal, after having missed a penalty, uh, also could have been the one to take. Like, you cannot question Xabi Alonso's choice of substitution. You can,
Yeah.
and maybe the timing wasn't right for Vinicius and all of that, but I still do not feel that a reaction like that is warranted for, because purely because you're Vinicius Junior, you're the most sought after personality in world football. Wherever you go and everywhere you, even if you do something on the sidelines or off the pitch, the camera is going to be on you, and the reaction that you give to any particular situation is going to be, made a mockery out of. So I think even he
Yeah.
knows that. He knows that he knows that if he doesn't shake the manager's hand after going off, that's going to be made a big deal
Plenty
out
of
of.
players have gone off without shaking, the manager's hands. It
But
has
it was
happened with
pretty evident.
Carlo,
No, Sunil,
with
I get
Mourinho. But
that.
I'm just telling you, Vinicius has to keep this
Vinicius
under
does that.
wraps.
Vinicius usually shakes the manager's hand. He usually embraces the
Mm,
manager. He
mm,
Throwing a tantrum like that is very
yeah.
much uncalled for. And I'm
Mm,
just glad that the result has gone his way. And I'm just glad that he has actually had a brilliant game. Because if not, if the result was actually, flipped,
mm,
then you would
yeah.
be you'd be seeing a lot of angry Madridistas. Let me just tell you that. So
Mm.
that's what I think about that situation. Like I said, right, with
And the fact
with,
that
with Yamar on the other side and with Vinny on the side, there's two spoiled brats who can only be
Yamal is
loved
no
by their
comparison.
own.
Yamal is no comparison for me because Yamal is completely of a
No,
different,
absolutely. It's the persona that I'm talking about. It's not what
No, I get
he
it,
has
but still,
achieved or he has not, right? It's the
yeah,
persona that
but
I'm talking about.
mm,
The only thing I'll say though is that if you're going to run your mouth like Yamal does, then you better back your chat. And
mm.
till the time he was actually among the best players in the world, nobody raised an eyebrow on the kind of attitude that he actually displayed on or off the pitch.
Ashik
Uh,
was mentioning, I don't have an issue with Vinny's tantrum. We need the fire. This will be settled, but the fire is needed. I mean, I get it. We need the fire. I like my players to show passion. I like my players to be disgruntled
Not towards the managers, not towards the
and
manager.
frustrated when things are not going their way. But It's not only the manager, though, right? When you look around, for me, this screams of an inept management, inept leadership, inept, yeah, just a basic, fine tuning
Yes,
of what it
I do agree.
requires to
But it
be a
also
metal
comes down to
player. For
persona,
me,
Sunil.
I don't give a fuck about persona. Like, no, don't try to defend all these motherfuckers. Like, I'll be
Ah,
very
no, no,
honest.
no, no, no. That's
Our
not what I'm
club,
doing, Sunil.
yeah, okay,
What I'm
okay.
saying is you can't
Hmm.
put it completely down to a lack of leadership
For
or
me,
management. It's the way
yeah,
Vinicius says he's a spoiled brat. He can choose to be like Jude. He can choose to
I'll
put his
be
head down and go
I'll
off
be very honest.
without making a
Mm.
tantrum.
No, no,
Right?
100%. I'll
Jude
be very
wasn't
honest
having the
because.
best performs when he
Mm,
came back from his injury. Jude didn't
mhm.
have the best of Madrid derbies, and yet every time he gets subbed off, he puts his head down, embraces the manager, claps for the fans, and he goes off with respect.
all
So
these all these young players, they tend to get overboard with this because
yeah,
when Vinicius is coming off, he is already screaming. I mean, he actually has the decency to tap the hand of Rodrigo. But when Rodrigo looks at it, from his perspective, Vinicius is completely disrespecting him. So the likes of
absolutely,
Yamal, the likes of Vinicius, they are not setting the right example for people who are coming through, and this
absolutely,
doesn't really bode well for the sport.
yeah,
Like having fire, having the aggression shouldn't be against your own team. That's where I come from. Cristiano has thrown a lot of tantrums,
exactly what I'm
lot of
saying. Yeah,
tantrums, but it never really looks like he's disrespecting the guy who's coming on for him or
yeah,
disrespecting the management, going down the tunnel. The shit like going down the tunnel.
absolutely.
Like maybe he has done that at United. I think so. He has done maybe once or twice. I don't know. But at my club at Madrid, he has never done that, and he has been cordial enough to actually go back on the bench and yeah, just be frustrated about it and
Yeah,
then maybe have a conversation inside. All this showbiz, all this drama on the sideline is unnecessary for me. That's why I get so frustrated with Vinicius, and I'm very like on a night like this, like what the commentators were mentioning. We shouldn't be talking about Vinicius's tantrums. We should be celebrating this win. I came
yeah.
here completely putting Vinicius's, antics off my mind. But here we are, I'm getting all riled up because of this silly bullshit. Like I have to put up with. This is why
Yeah.
I've said time and time again. Yeah, the science on the pitch hasn't been great, but I can see it's a direct reflection of the fucking dressing room we have, and the sort of heads we have in the dressing room. Because I'm pretty sure in the era of Mourinho, I shouldn't be expecting the society or the game to be the way it was 10, 15 years ago. But this is bare minimum, like bare minimum to show respect towards your colleagues, respect towards your manager.
Yeah.
I mean, Xabi Alonso is no average bloke, right? I have to back him. We have to back the manager in this situation because if he doesn't fix situations like this in the future, we are gonna look like a club that is incompetent, a club that is not serious at all.
No, certainly
But yeah,
the
we should
manager
move on.
and other leaders
Mm,
in the dressing
mm,
room also have to
mm,
stamp down their authority
mm,
and
mm,
actually have a
mm,
word with Vinicius um,
mm,
about his some of his antics, some of his
mm. Yeah,
attitude, which oftentimes also things get taken out of context. This is not, but other things Vinicius does. So he has to be very careful with all of his actions and all of his words. And so
mm-hmm.
does Yamal, but let's not give it more footage than it actually deserves because there are several other things to mention about when it comes to this game. Jude Bellingham's performance, Arda Güler, Kylian Mbappe, Barcelona's highline, all of that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Paraman was mentioning, Vinicius will be put back in place, I'm sure, by Perez, Carvajal, and Valverde. I'm telling you again, Carvajal
Yep.
isn't a proper leader, isn't the guy we need leading this team. He is a good player, he has his head on his shoulders most of the time. But when we see, his his tantrums himself, his antics, that he does himself. Like I have no faith in Carvel being the guy leading this team. Fede Valverde, not really the captain material that we need. He leads by his performance, but I don't think he has the authority or the sort of aura that his peers would respect him. No, nah. So I'm really
I
worried
tend
about
to
that,
disagree a
in
little
terms of
bit, but I do agree that
you
something
you
needs to
you
be done.
you think Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham is gonna look at Valverde and be like, oh shit, like I have to really fix up now. No, I don't think so,
No,
Sahil.
I'm talking about
No.
Carvajal, more about Carvajal than Valverde. But Valverde can
Mm,
develop certainly into that character.
mhm.
It's not who he is right now. It's just we
Yeah.
see him as a future.
Carvajal
Uh,
commands respect, but he isn't someone who has the, like like you saw the red card against Marseille. That has happened way too many times in his career. Like he hasn't been sent off, thankfully, but the way he carries himself on the pitch, he is a warrior. Like we like seeing that. He's a bit of a master of the dark arts, like Ramos. But as a captain, yeah, he has to prove a lot to me.
no,
For me. Mm, mm,
I beg to differ, Sunil. In my eyes, he's
mm,
a similar style of captain as Sergio Ramos was. And if you want someone that leads purely by example, we did have Karim Benzema, and people respected him, and people
mm.
among the squad looked up to him because of the way he led from the front with his
No,
goals, with
no.
his
See, I'm not asking him to be the leading by example sort of captain.
yeah
His aggression and his aggression is nice, man, but you can't be dumb. You know what I mean? Carvajal does some dumb shit all the time. Do you remember the shove that he made on Araujo, where he's
yeah
completely
that could have been given a
done
pen. Yeah, that could have been like if that was in the
stuff
middle
like
of the
this?
pitch, that was a foul.
The the
I cannot
temperament,
deny. Yeah.
the temperament isn't great. I'm
Did that get
telling you,
looked
it's
at?
not great.
Did that get checked by VAR? Because
No, it doesn't get checked randomly, but it does get checked when we least expect it. And I was thinking that would get, checked because
yeah,
Carvajal has no intention to play the ball. So I love the guy, like he was the guy who came out of nowhere, put himself into the team after just a year out on loan. This guy is everything that, is Madridismo, but yeah, like his credentials as per, as far as being our main captain goes, I really need to see a lot more level-headedness. We need it from Carvajal. We
yeah.
don't have the likes of Ramos. We don't have the likes of Pepe, Varane, and Casillas, and Cristiano, and all of these guys to lead the pitch. So when Vinicius and all these guys who are already hot-headed and completely, uh, yeah, just short fused people, right? When they look at Carvajal, they'll be like, "Oh, if he can do that, why can't I?" So at times I would like Carval to be a bit more measured, but
Fair enough.
that's for another day. Some of the comments, Danny made a stupid move today as well. He didn't need to shoulder Araujo. Luckily, the ref made the right call, but VAR could have intervened. His stupidity is
Luckily,
amplifying.
Araujo didn't make a bigger deal
Yeah,
out of the call.
yeah. Paraman was also mentioning if Vinny, for example, doesn't respect Valverde and Carvajal, then Vinny is the problem. No, I get Vinny is the problem, but we need a captain who commands immediate respect. And I've said this, we have lacked that for a few years, but we have kind of, held together by, Carlo Ancelotti's really, really good man management and the people he had. Like I had a good relationship with his assistant, and I knew the sort of environment they had. Maybe accountability wasn't the and meritocracy was in the focus and the center of how they dealt the dressing room, but it had good vibes, and the good vibes meant that players were usually super happy. I don't think it's the case anymore. Let's see how this pans out. There is a
Yes.
togetherness, there is a sense of family, but um, yeah, on the pitch when things go south, who's standing up and really, really taking this team forward. That's something that we need to keep tabs on. But moving on, people are mentioning about Militao's bomb down the left. Having the chance to actually take, was it Araujo 101 or something? But yeah, this guy I think had an insane match. Him alongside Germany, I think, where two of our best players. The amount of blocks, the amount of slide tackles that he perfectly timed, insane. Sahil, Militao, I think for all his shortcomings and silly mistakes here and there, has looked like the guy who has kept the back line together throughout the season.
Yeah, certainly. I think at the end of the last game, we spoke about Militao being a little bit of a hit or miss when it comes to his performances. He certainly isn't, in his most consistent reign of form right now. He has had his fair share of erroneous games, and when it goes bad, it goes terribly bad for Eder Militao, uh, because
Mm.
he looks in all sorts when it comes to his positioning, when it comes to his passing, um, and he just seems to lose his head. But today was not one of those days. Today was one of those days where he got pretty much everything right. As you mentioned, he played um, you know, extremely, I'd say, pessimistically in defense, because he knew that his fullbacks and his midfielders were going to, abandon him sometimes. And in
Mhm.
defensive transition, when with our backs to goal, Militao and Hausen were often the last men to face the Barcelona wingers. Uh, well, luckily, Barcelona also didn't have a full-fledged attack where Yamal was in good form, or with Lewandowski finishing instead of Fermin or someone else. But they did a good job. Like, Militao was where he was supposed to be 80% of the time. Uh,
Mhm.
he was a good presence in the box, and also in the opposition box, where he managed to get that assist
Assist. Yeah.
for Jude Bellingham's goal. So it's just his aerial presence, his work ethic. Obviously, he's used his pace and his physicality to good measure. Um, Things like that will be tested to a greater degree, to a much greater extent, when he comes up against uh, a proper nine, like Robert Lewandowski is. Um, but that's hypotheticals. When it comes to today's game, Eder Militao has had a solid game, and the same goes for Aurelien Tchouameni. Like, we've just seen this guy get better and better and better with each game this season, especially now having settled into that second
Mm.
defensive mid position with Kamavinga by his side. And Kamavinga, for his again to his credit, was playing in a much different position today than we've seen him play all season. Actually, Kamavinga hasn't played much or started much all season. I think it was
He was
just his second
providing
or
width on either flanks. I was really
yeah.
surprised by that decision from Xabi
It
Alonso.
was
Like,
a no, but it was a measured,
it
shrewd
was a
tactical
carefully
move
designed
that
plan to
worked.
give us overloads down the flanks, and it
Exactly.
worked
It
to a great extent. He was
because
always the extra man.
Absolutely, and when we speak about Kamavinga, right, we speak about his ball carrying abilities, and you can't really carry the ball into space where Vinicius and Mbappe are already waiting to receive the ball. Like, you have to at some point play the pass, and that more often than not created for a very lopsided looking Real Madrid attack, where we had three or four players down the left, but nobody bombing down the right except
Mhm.
Valverde.
Mhm.
So to balance that, it was a very shrewd, like I said, counterbalancing act with Kamavinga on the right.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
also pressed really high when we just lost possession, so that
Mm.
gave Fede Valverde ample time to recover and
Mm.
recover his position and get back to defend. Uh, so I thought that was a good cover for Valverde on the right, and that was also effective counter pressing and effective ball carrying option
Since
down
you
that
since
flank.
you since you mentioned the high press, like I would like to again point out,
Yeah.
Carreras and Hausen were two of the guys who led the trigger sometimes for the high press and basically
Yeah.
leaving their positions and going for the ball. I felt like, yeah, Xabi Alonso was prepared for this game because he knew that
Yeah.
he had to fight Barcelona fire with fire, and yeah, you can sit back and be compact if you have a lead or if you have some sort
Yeah.
of a goal to protect. But when it
You
comes
can't do
to,
that from the
yeah,
offset, right?
yeah, when it comes to, yeah, like stamping in the authority on the game, you have to be aggressive. And we took Campbell's, probably on another night, if you remember, Carreras basically, yeah, struggling to keep up with Fermin. He shoots it straight at Thibaut. For Carreras has had many many
Blunders like that,
too
yes.
many too many in discipline, um indisciplined moments throughout the season, and that's one thing that makes me really, really concerned about the left hand side. But to their credit, he was insane against Yamal 1v1, um,
Yeah.
because Yamal couldn't breathe. Whenever Yamal was on the ball, Carreras was on him, and he couldn't really get out at times. That
Yeah,
could be, like you said, brought on by the lack of Rafinha, the lack of Lewandowski, because the
lack of
attention we
Olmo
can
as well
focus.
down the middle.
Yeah, yeah, we can focus completely on Yamal.
Yeah,
But yeah, Carreras and Hausen in that regard, being aggressive and being
100%.
the couple of players who basically allowed our front players to thrive. I think they did really well.
100%. Because
Mm,
look, when it comes to defending Yamal, right? He's not a player
mm,
that you can get too close to because he's a solid dribbler in close proximity, and that's probably his greatest strength. But he's also fast. If you get too fast, if you get too, too close to him, he's gonna beat you
mhm.
for pace.
Yeah.
So you have to be within breathing distance of him. And when it comes to the high press, or for that matter, the counter press, every time we lost possession, we were on them like dogs, right?
Mm,
That was the work ethic that was missing in some of the bigger games prior, because especially when Real Madrid have the lead, right? They tend to
mhm.
the intensity tends to drop off,
Yeah.
where you see only one or two players actually initiating a press and having some
Mhm.
semblance of desperation to win that possession
Mm,
back.
yeah.
But that wasn't the case in that first half today. Like I was thoroughly impressed by the attitude with which they pressed.
Mm,
Even once
mhm.
Barcelona had regained that goal, and then it was 1-1 again, I thought they went out and like you said, you put the perfect words to it. You match fire with fire. I don't think that's the way someone more astute like Carlo Ancelotti would have gone about it, but that's why Xabi
Mhm.
Alonso is Xabi Alonso, right? He
Yeah.
uh, he was very bold with the plan that he
Mm,
came to this Clasico with.
yeah.
But he also knew that if the high press didn't work, he had an informed Aurelien Tchouameni there to cut off everything that came through the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
had a capable central defense with Eder Militao, and he trusted Eder Militao to take out anything. That's not like we didn't look vulnerable in phases of that game. It's not like that
Mhm.
high press didn't get beaten. It's just that uh, we had players at the back to cut off everything that came through, everything that
Mm,
seeped through what seemed like an impermeable wall. Um, yeah, I'm just impressed with how thoroughly well prepared Xabi Alonso was and with his tactics in this game.
mm,
I
mhm.
think somebody in the comments also mentioned that finally it's a win that seems tactical and not just vibes, something like that.
Mhm. Yeah. I'll be very honest. Then again, I'll just say this. This is a really good step forward. But this season has to bring in the silverware. And even in a game like this, even when we thought we played well, we looked shocking at the back at times, especially on the flanks. Carreras again. Me and Javier in the group chat, we were having a conversation regarding, like, why do I go after Carreras when he is being so diligently effective um, on Yamal? For me, yeah, you can outmark Yamal and basically make him, make him go quiet the entire 90. But then when you are asked to cut into midfield and then track runs and be that option out wide and play the killer ball, you shouldn't be afraid. For me, I think in a game like this and what we saw against Atleti as well, he looks super nervous. Same has happened to Hausen. I know they're young, they are inexperienced, but like what Farooq would say, we have to give these guys the respect that they are professional footballers. Playing in a game of such high stakes. They should be given their due respect by not really undermining their ability, undermining their standards by bringing
Yeah,
age into the equation, experience into the equation. If you're playing for Madrid, especially at home, we are backed by own fans. I'm pretty sure if we are playing away, those kind of mistakes are completely going to cost us, and we have seen that way too many times that we look like a completely different side at home compared to when we are playing away. Um, so yeah, Carreras has to absolutely stop being clunky on the ball, taking too many touches. Just lay the ball off. If you're running into a blind alley, I've seen this way too many times from Carreras. He's basically running into a block of three guys, expecting something to happen. That is just nervousness, naivety, and complete lack of match awareness. Like he has to basically lay the ball off into midfield or just turn back, go back to Thibaut if you can't. He's just bringing more and more pressure on himself. With such performances. For all the good work he does, he kind of tends to put a blemish on it by having iffy moments. Also, Fede at right back, not convincing enough. He had a few good, decent duels with Rashford, but more often than not, I felt like where Barcelona could hurt us. I know we will come back to the middle and we kind of shoveled Barcelona out of the flanks, and that kind of put Fede and Carreras under a lot of
At
pressure.
ease, yes.
But I do think we struggle to close down Barcelona on flanks, and Fede Valverde is not a natural right back, but I do think that's where we struggle the most. A few more of the comments before that. I was just saying, Jude Bellingham actually posted on Instagram with the caption, "Talk is cheap." A la Madrid, and he also had the audacity to actually add Elvis's song, "Little Less Conversation." You see, people are watching, man. Yamal has to be a little more smart about what he says from now on. And I think this is a good learning lesson for an 18-year-old. But moving on. Ashi was also mentioning, the melee started because of Vinny telling Yamal that, talk now, you talk too much. He asked him to basically speak, so that was a brawl that, given the circumstances, given the way we were actually winning, I didn't mind. Last season, it was a completely different context, if you remember, because we lost the game. It was a bit more hard to take, what happened on the sidelines.
I do agree. Yeah, and it was always building up to that, not just in this match, and just the atmosphere around the Clasico going into this game, and everything that had been said off the pitch, and everything that happened on the pitch last year, just built up to this being not just a great game of football to watch, but also something that was going to have a lot of spice and a lot of just fierce characters coming and clashing together either at the end or when the game stopped. And there was also one tweet, I think, about Carvajal wanting to speak to Yamal about something in private after the game. So things like that, I think it's within the spirits of El Clasico, for us fans and for the neutrals as well, to be seeing such fierce competitiveness between Real Madrid and Barcelona, and it's only good for football and only good for La Liga that these things keep happening, classic after Clasico, that keeps the fire burning between these two teams, because if they don't hate each other, then there is practically not a rivalry anymore. It doesn't feel like a
it'll be like the Liverpool City rivalry,
yes.
So
it will feel all too tame. So I'm actually happy.
No
that
Clasico is going to be ever
that,
tame. So I'm grateful for that.
no, there were a few, like Sunil, if you remember, there was a few.
That was right after Messi left.
Yes.
So that's an anomaly in my opinion. But random guy was mentioning it's a good boost for the title charge now. Just be consistent and don't drop points against the smaller sides. Barcelona is more vulnerable to smaller teams this season. Title is ours to lose from here. I wouldn't say the title is ours to lose. There's a long way to go.
It's too soon, man. It's match day 10. Like, a lot can happen in La Liga. Even if we go into the December break, top of the league, you can't really call us December champions or anything like that, because La Liga will be fought, I think, towards up until the last 4 or 5 match days this season, especially if one of Atleti or Bilbao or someone come back into form. That would be really crucial then to push the top two into giving it their absolute best, because Real Madrid and Barcelona, eventually they will run out of steam, and the injuries will accumulate. All of that will be there eventually at some later stage in the season. Real Madrid, I think, have a tendency of just not performing well in January. So that phase will come eventually. It's
Mhm.
like he mentioned, consistency and not losing away games to smaller teams. That'll be really crucial.
Ashik was mentioning there's only one player in this team who can be a captain-like figure, Thibaut Courtois. Did you see the lashing he gave them against Juve? No, I get it. He can speak. He can really give it to his defenders and the team in general. He really is a blunt guy. When he is doing interviews and whatnot. I like that aspect of him, but at the same time, it will be incredibly negative for him to do that. Because I saw the interview that Van Dijk gave against United, where he basically slated Konate. Thibaut would do stuff like that. So I don't want my captain to be that guy. I want my captain to be honest. I want my captain to be, you know, um, pretty transparent about the team with the fans and whatnot. Like I would like that, but Thibaut takes it a step too far. And his immaturity himself when he was a newbie at Madrid, how he has basically made comments about Navas where he had absolutely no right to. Nah, this guy isn't a captain for me. Unfortunately. But yeah, Ashik was mentioning it's only 5 points, and the dark hands of the referees can always play a role. We were leading by a solid margin last season. Then the refs made some BS calls and non calls, 3-4 for 3-4 straight games. Yeah, the refereeing. Can you
I
can
knew
you
we were going to come
really
to it.
can we really call that a handball, Sahil?
Was his arm outstretched? Yes. Could he have moved it
Mm,
out of the way? Yes. Because I understand if you're going down and if it's your, the hand with which you're actually going down, your dominant hand. If it was
yeah.
his right hand, then there was no question, there was no penalty because he couldn't have gotten it out of the way. And I
Mm,
get that it was not deliberate from Jude's end either. Jude didn't know where the ball was. Eric
mm,
Garcia didn't know where the ball was. It all happened too quickly. Um, and obviously the law says if it's not in a natural position and if you can't get it out of the way, then um, there's no question of handball. But
mm,
purely because it was the movement of his arm was outstretched and
mm,
it was actually not inward, it was actually going towards the frame of the ball. uh, on a purely technical factor, you have to, I mean, I think that was the right call, as
mm,
frustrating as it is to be on the
mm,
receiving end of that. um, but in that situation,
mm,
uh, and obviously
yeah.
it's if it wasn't, then it's only fair that Mbappe, went on to miss the pen, and not that it really mattered in the end, but that would have been another big talking factor had the game, finished a draw or a Barcelona
Mm.
win, God forbid.
Ashik was mentioning that was a pen. We have had these calls made against us. That is a pen. Even Parman
Exactly,
was mentioning it was a clear pen, and it should have been a pen in the
exactly.
uh, first half as well on Vinicius. Yeah, the Vinicius thing I think was more of a pen, and they didn't even bother showing the other angles for the
Wasn't
referee
it?
to look at.
Wasn't it an offside in the build up to that Vinicius pen?
I don't think there was an offside because if there
There
was an
was there
offside,
was there was an offside, I think.
because they were only showing the Vinicius's, I mean the Yamal tackle on Vini. If there was an offside, why didn't the referee? Why would the referee actually go to the screen if there was an offside in the build-up? So I don't think there was an offside. Maybe there was hints of an offside. Yeah, there were some murmurs about there being an offside, but I don't think ultimately. I don't think the ref would go to the screen if there was an offside. But yeah, for me, that was more of a pen than the handball. Like for me, maybe I'm a bit too old school. This is ridiculous because if we start handing out pens for stuff like that, yeah, we're gonna be looking at a game that has absolutely no rhythm, no sense of flow. For me, at least, it's crazy the sort of handballs that is being handed out. But yeah, Paraman was asking what did Mbappe do on that pen? He went top corner. I mean, he has gone bottom corner all the time, so I think he felt like he should go top corner once. I wouldn't really blame him for the pen.
Chesney won the
Yeah.
mind game, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he read him all too well because
Mm,
Mbappe is a player who has been taking so many penalties. I think Chesney he did his research pretty well
Mm.
on
Yeah.
where on which side he puts it in the highest
Mm.
pressure moments.
Mm.
And he wasn't
Mm.
wrong about it. He just if Mbappe put his foot through it he hit a harder shot, maybe it would have gone in on the same side. But
Yeah. Yeah.
all ifs, but and maybes.
12 goals in his last 9 matches against Barcelona for Mbappe. Both as a PSG player and as a Madrid player. This
Oh,
guy,
that's Cristiano-esque numbers, eh?
that's Cristiano's numbers. I think he has. There's not the stat that I wrote down. I can't quite find it right now. Uh, yeah, some 27 or 32 goals in the last 27 games or some shit like that. I mean, that is just crazy. That's just crazy numbers. Mbappe just looking like that player who just can't stop scoring. Even the shots he scuffs somehow finds the back of the net. If you remember the volley that he had first time, that's
Oh,
that's Cristiano-esque.
that
That's
fucking hell,
insane.
that
Insane
if
finish. Insane
again
finish.
it was pretty much a replica, a repeat story of what happened in the first Clasico last season, where he was caught
Mm.
offside a bunch of times, and that
Yeah, I was
ended up
like, here we
costing
go
us.
again.
Yeah, that ended up costing us the game last year. But fortunately this year he actually did take one chance. And to his credit, that was also a solid finish because he's just never seems to miss from that sort of angle anymore, and he's also getting closer and closer with his weak foot shots. But I really do hope that he um, you know does more clinically with his weak foot, because that's an
Mm.
angle that he ends up in so much, where he's
Yeah.
on the outside of the defender and on the left hand side. But I'm sure I'm nitpicking with this, because he is someone who's among the conversation in the conversation for the best nines in the world right now, and we never thought that would happen. We thought he would
Mm.
adapt and he would improvise into a little bit of a Karim Benzema replacement, but he has
Uh,
actually held his own.
I'll
And
I won't entertain any other conversation here. He still isn't a nine. There's a reason why
no,
Jude Bellingham almost seems
but
like a nine. You know,
he's that's what I'm saying. He's not
Mm.
he's not a nine in the sense that we expected him. He
Mm.
became a different.
He's
He's
just not
transitioned
a
into a
nine.
completely different. I would still beg to differ on it. That's like
Mm. It's not a nine.
a player who's scoring for fun,
Mm.
with the kind of numbers that
But
he
he is
just
no nine.
mentioned.
He's not a
Well,
guy
I
who
mean, if
has
you
the
say so,
instinct to
if you say
actually.
so, I don't think he's. I don't think he's a
Fair enough.
poacher. I don't think he's someone who plants himself in the box, and
Yeah, a
you would
poacher
be
is what I
wasting.
call a nine. So.
But you would still be wasting a lot of his potential
Mm.
if you turned him into that sort of player. But I
Mm.
think he has molded himself and his game in a way
he,
that
he, in a way,
brings out
he's
his
much more
strengths.
unpredictable, right? More lethal than a traditional nine because he can do everything, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
he's okay. Come on, you can at least you can call him a center forward, right?
Yeah, he's yeah, yeah. Since
Okay,
he's playing the position, I'm
fine,
not convinced that he is, the guy to be playing down the middle. But he is
sure. And
finding so much success.
even
Mm.
even with the conversation about the conversation we had the other day about his big game prowess, like he seems to be shutting us up for good at this point. Uh, you know,
Mm.
he hasn't. You could say that he's not won us a game on his own, like
Mm.
like he used to for France or for PSG. But come on, he has, and I'd be very happy, more than happy to change my mind about that now,
Mm.
looking back retrospectively, because he seems to deliver in these big games in this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
if anything, Vinicius, his big game form has dipped a little bit as of late, but to his credit,
Mm-hmm.
today he was there.
Yeah. The big game narrative is absolutely true. Like I never denied his big game credentials, but it is when we don't deliver on the big stage in terms of trophies and going deep into the Champions Leagues and whatnot. We kind of tend to look at players who went missing. So that's the only slide on Mbappe so far, and especially the way he has performed this season. Like, yeah, even his doubters like me, like I can't really say much. I still don't think he can drag us over the line single handedly because we have to have realistic expectations of Mbappe. He is a guaranteed a goal a game player right now in the form he is in, which I thought he wasn't before. Right now, he just is in that sort of rhythm where basically, anything that he touches is gold. So uh, we just have to make sure the people around him support it. The people around him is dynamic enough, is clever enough to know that Mbappe might not be always making the dotting run into the box, or maybe in a 50-50 scruffle. He wouldn't be the guy who is putting his body on the line to win stuff. There should be other players who should be taking up those kind of positions, and letting Mbappe be the guy. Yeah, he'd be waiting edge of the box for the finesse, and stuff like that. So I think
No, I don't
with Jude
disagree.
Bellingham,
I don't disagree
go
with
on.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But we
with
have
Jude
that kind
Bellingham
of
in this
striker.
team. Mm.
Yeah, with Jude Bellingham in this team, go on.
With Jude Bellingham in this team, I think there's a clear dynamic that he is a guy
Mm.
who smells blood in terms of the half chance falling his way. You know what I mean? In the
Mm.
box. And like Mbappe wouldn't position himself in a way Jude Bellingham did for the second goal. We need that dynamic.
Certainly not.
And
Yeah.
and Jude Bellingham can't do what Mbappe does, the first time volley into the back of the
Oh,
net. So we need the
yeah.
best of both worlds for this attack to function. And I'm great. And I'm great. The
But
dynamic that we have with Jude Bellingham, Arda Güler, Mbappe, Vinicius is looking really, really promising. It's looking like, we are going to win something big. I can finally say that. I think this match was what I needed, badly. Um,
look at Sinead being convinced.
um,
90 minutes of good football, and
against
he's
a big
brought over
side,
to the other
and
side.
I've seen Barcelona dismantle teams. Even though they had
Yeah.
a big loss against Sevilla, when they are on it, even without, like, some people would argue Lewandowski has been really poor, because I saw him come on for Firmino and miss a pen and basically cost them the game against Sevilla.
Oh, yes,
Um,
yes.
Bowman has been absolutely playing out of his mind for the last couple of months. So arguably, he is their main guy. Rafinha is the only one who is, who you could say is being a miss for Barcelona. So this was a very convincing performance, especially the amount of chances we created. We should have won this game 4-1, 5-1 easily.
Yeah,
Um, and
certainly.
the,
If anything, Barcelona going into that,
mm,
into halftime at 2-1 uh, would have been slightly happier because of the fact that Real Madrid didn't convert all of the chances that they had, and because also
mhm.
of the fact that they knew that Real Madrid were going to come out and play a different game in the second half. We weren't going to have nearly as many chances in that second half.
Yeah,
When we started
I,
actually.
it's a concern though, Sahil, for me. Since you
Yeah.
brought up the second half, I'd mention this. We lost any semblance of control that we had in the first half and the second. I mean,
Uh,
Hansi kind of adjusted it, and we didn't kind of react. Yamal was brought a bit more central. He knew that Carreras was completely taking him out of the game. Yamal was a bit more central. If you remember the outside of the boot pass he played for, I think it
Kunde.
was for me, or was it for Kunde? I can't remember. But yeah,
Yeah, the
Thibaut
one
came
Kunde
out.
took on his chest, right?
Oh, that was towards the end of the game. This was, I think, early on in the second half.
Oh,
But
right,
yeah,
right,
that
right.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
But that as
yeah.
well for Kunde as well. Oh, holy shit! If Kunde hits the ball,
Oh,
or
that was in. That was
maybe
in.
takes a touch and takes the ball basically out of Thibaut's uh, path, and basically, Thibaut has to foul him or something like that. It's a clear pen. So you see, we
Thibaut did the
concede some.
basics right today. Everything that was
Mm,
thrown at him might not have been the greatest job in the world, but
mm,
uh,
mm.
as in might not have been the greatest, bit
Yeah.
of movement in the world that he had for today's game. But
Mm.
he got everything, pretty much everything Barcelona had to throw at him. And when you speak about the way we changed in that second half, you could also look at it, um, you know, and I get the argument. I get that maybe you think Xabi Alonso played his cards way too early in that second half, where he threw the team into a shell, and almost as
No,
if
I didn't say that.
he.
I said that Hansi Flick adjusted pretty well, and we
I get
kind of
that,
couldn't
but
react.
I get
Mm.
that, but there was also a phase where we pretty much stopped trying to, create anything of our own, and
Oh
we
yeah, we,
tried to.
we we went into a compact 10-man
Yeah,
block at times, even
we
Mbappe behind the ball. Yeah.
Exactly. We tried to disrupt Barcelona's rhythm, and that looking back now, it kind of worked. But when I was watching the game, I was like, why is he starting to, you know, throw us back so quickly? Because it's right, even right before the halftime whistle blew, he was actually asking the players not to commit so much to the counterattacks, which for me was a little bit confusing. But I think Xabi got that spot on now, looking back, because well, it worked, right? At the end of the day, it worked. It was successful in keeping that slender margin. And I was one of the people who thought that Barcelona was certainly going to come and score in that second half, purely because of how much firepower they actually have in their ranks. But I was wrong. Barcelona did,
They had a
weren't
few
all
chances, if you
that
remember.
much more threatening in
If
that
you
second
remember,
half, except for a
since
couple of
last
chances.
Howson's last test tackle like I've written this down clearly. Carreras against
Yeah.
Furman. Furman is through on goal, 1v1, right?
Oh, yes, yes,
Then
yes, yes.
then Militao had a good counter. Then Carreras, Howson, last ditch tackle on Yamal. Last ditch. If he mistimes that or can't get to the ball, Yamal, taps the ball in. The Chouameni, slide tackle on Eric Garcia. Like insane. Then he actually gets back up, guzzed out wide to his left flank, and then makes another crucial tackle.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
we
Our
just
defensive, our
were,
defenders saved us
yeah,
at times. Absolutely,
yeah.
no,
We
I
just
don't
were,
disagree.
making really good, you know, financial decisions in terms of when knowing when to gamble, knowing when to back off. I think paid dividends during the second half, and especially if you look at how Barcelona were able to regain control and look to punish us. We we had the maturity, I think, especially from Xabi Alonso's perspective, how to manage this game because, like you said, like how you were kind of surprised that we didn't look like we wanted to be aggressive. I think
Yeah,
it was smart in the sense that if Barcelona gets the next goal, it would look kind of shaky
yeah.
for us
Then the
because
momentum would be
yeah,
absolutely in
yeah,
their stride, because if they go on to score a second at that point in the game, they would most
mm,
certainly go on to score a third. And
yeah,
honestly, that was all that we were worried about. We weren't worried about we were worried about a collapse. We weren't worried about Real Madrid not scoring anymore, because we knew that was a real possibility. Like, we would
mhm,
either score two or at max three.
yeah,
It's just that would Barcelona actually come out and rip our souls out of
mm,
us with their attack,
mhm,
and
mhm,
with the potential that they have, running at us. But luckily that they didn't, and our, like you mentioned, our defense actually
mhm.
marshaled some of their attacking prowess pretty well. So big
Few
ups
other few
to
more.
Housen, big ups to
Mm,
Eder
mm.
Militao, Chouameni, solid. Kamavinga as well. He did his job really, really well.
Moving on, a few more of the comments quickly. Mbappe's volley was an offside. Was Ashi was mentioning the ball was played back by Furman, which automatically plays Mbappe onside. Plus, even the positioning was close. They don't show when the ball is played. I can't really remember, but all I saw was the semi-automated decision. But yeah, Parman was mentioning Mbappe playing as a nine makes him more dependent on his teammates. If he plays on the wing, it's easier for the for you to take the game to the opposition. I presume he was mentioning. Um, yeah, he was saying, he agrees with me. I want to see Mbappe even more hungry to score goals. Um, Ashik was mentioning Barcelona were on the back foot today. Yeah, Real Madrid had full control. They can say whatever the fuck they want. To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
thought
wouldn't say we had.
we didn't let Barcelona play their natural game, and that was,
Mm.
you mentioned, match fire with fire. That was pretty
Sahil, to an
much.
extent, I've written down the amount of big chances Barcelona created. They had at least four, Sahil.
And so what we did too,
Another
right?
night.
It's not like we were in our shell the
Mm,
whole 90
mm.
minutes. That's the
No,
that's
we
the most
were.
important part.
We weren't, but we were
That we were
only that
matching their.
explosive in the first half.
Yes, obviously, and it was a tactical decision on Xabi Alonso's part to actually bring that back, to bring that intensity back and to make the game less direct and less open for Barcelona to capitalize on. But apart from that, we showed that we can play the kind of football that actually threatens Barcelona more than just sitting in our defensive area and launching a counter attack, because that's not what we did today. We were solid in the press, right? We were patient in possession when we did have it, and we made good use of possession. One would argue even more than Barcelona did, because I'm sure they had more of the ball, marginally more of the ball than we did. So it's resourcefulness among the players that you do have, and Xabi Alonso used that brilliantly well, even outside of the tactical aspect of it.
Yeah. For me, I'll be very honest. Mbappe learned to play the Barcelona high line, and then again, I'll mention this. See, I don't want to go into this mode where I'm undermining the performance. I'm absolutely elated. This is the happiest I've felt in like 9 months or some shit. This was a win that I craved for so long. But then again, I'll say this: Mbappe today looked like he knew when to make the runs, what sort of runs he had to gamble on. For all of the credit that we give Xabi Alonso, Carlo Ancelotti's side had Mbappe in behind, if it wasn't for offside, at least 8 times in the first half alone in the Clasico that we lost. So yeah, we just were a much more mature side against this Barcelona, and also we have to put this into perspective. Issy with Rayo Vallecano basically, dismantled Barcelona's highline all by himself. A brilliant player in his own right. Issy Palazon. But we have seen enough evidence to know that Barcelona this time of the year, in 2025, doesn't look as convincing as they did last year, and the highline has been come into a lot of scrutiny. Even the commentators, when I was watching, they were scratching their head, thinking, they can literally see that Mbappe is being put through in behind every time we try to attack down the middle. They didn't even bother correcting it. Look, I understand that they're playing to their philosophy. They are kind of tuned in, wired in to play that way. But
exactly.
I think we still did really good to come out of this game victorious, and a Clasico
exactly. It was also to an extent the tactical awareness and this the situational awareness on Xabi Alonso's part to change what was needed in that situation of the game where he thought Barcelona were having a too open of a game to allow them that level of threat. And I don't think Barcelona's coach or assistant coach in today's case saw it the same way, where he thought that something needed to be adjusted. He thought he would just get away with every chance Mbappe would run through it. With would it not cross their mind that on one of those chances Mbappe was going to hold his run, or somebody was going to be careless about where they where they let him start his run, and the ball was going to end up in the back of the net.
Jordan's pass, Jordan's pass to Mbappe was incredibly well timed on a platter. But Mbappe, I think, still had to do really good to actually, put it one side of Szczesny. Even then, Szczesny, I think it kind of deflected off his thigh or something. But
plus, with an offside trap, you end up in a situation where every time a player goes through on goal, the defenders and the keeper are looking towards the assistant.
And even Mbappe at times, he was second guessing himself whether
almost
he was
waiting
onside
for the flag to come on and off, and actually rather than actually focusing on defending. So it is a little bit of an iffy situation with Barcelona, because everybody has been talking about their excessively high line. Obviously, someone like Luis Enrique makes it work all the time, but not all not all teams in the world have the squad or the resources to make that kind of highline
Yeah.
work. It's
Yeah.
very risk to reward business.
Mm, mm, 100%. Talking about Jude Bellingham, right? Mbappe, incredible. Jude Bellingham, ever since his return, I mean, people were doubting him after the derby. I questioned him, purely due to the fact that he wasn't fit enough, right? Like people were really nobody really had any doubt regarding his quality, and I've
Yeah,
been one of the most vocal Jude Bellingham advocates for years. I had to defend him against rival fans, against our own fans at times, because
mm,
when it doesn't go our way, Jude Bellingham kind of looks clunky, kind of looks like a guy who doesn't really have the silky boots to get the tag of probably the world's best midfielder at times. He is an all around package, right? Like who can play both sides of the game, but not necessarily play the final ball all the time. But tonight he focused both of that. He showcased both of that to its full potential. The way
yeah.
he could pick a pass, and we have seen that happen so many times over the last 3 years. And the finish, and the positioning, Sahid. Uh, have we seen midfielders like him? I know the Lampards of this, of the previous generation would always have a conversation, but I'll be very honest. Apart from the purebred number tens, like the Ozils of this world, like the James Rodriguez, um, I haven't seen a Jude Bellingham who is so well adept going the other way and then
Yeah.
being almost like a striker in the box, a predator in the box when it matters the most. His positioning can't be by chance, can it?
No, absolutely not. It takes a lot of tactical know-how and just a lot of street smartness to play that game and to always, end up being the free man in the box.
Mm,
Because eventually players are going to mark you. It's just
yeah.
about how late you arrive in the box, um, or how slyly you move when
Hmm.
when you're not detected by the opposition centre backs. So big credits to him because Jude Bellingham is someone who doesn't get judged fairly by Real Madrid fans. And this happens on both ends of the spectrum because he, after the first season that he had at Real Madrid,
Yeah.
with the kind of output that we now expect of him, regardless of what position he plays in, right? If he has a good performance, but he has nothing to show for, then people, well, at least some people are going to come out of the stadium and think that Jude Bellingham was nowhere to be seen purely because he didn't score or assist. And also, on the other hand, he can have the most bang average game, but be
Hmm.
there on the numbers side of the game, uh, get a goal or an assist, and people will think he had an absolute brilliant performance because you cannot judge a player of Jude's quality with the kind of work ethic that
Yeah.
he has, with the kind of
Yeah.
complete midfield ability that he possesses, um, simply and purely based on goals and assists. There's a lot of dribbling. There's a lot of tackles that he wins. Um, right. There's a lot of uh, out of possession moments where he actually fills in for other players in different parts of the pitch. He's an all-round player, and I don't think he's the ideal 10 purely because um
The
he lacks that
inventiveness
final
at
ball.
times. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah. And that's exactly why we have Arda Güler playing in the same team as Jude
Arda
Bellingham,
Güler was
right?
playing 10 and Jude was more of an 8 today.
Exactly. So if
Mm,
if Jude actually had that final ball in him, and if he was the complete midfielder, you would feel no necessity to have um
yeah.
a
Then he
defensive
would
liability
basically be
like,
Zidane.
yeah,
So,
you have no necessity for a player like Arda Güler in the team, and if Jude
mm,
could take
mm,
set pieces and whatnot. But you cannot ask anything and everything of a player, even not even Jude Bellingham, right?
yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
there's limits to what we can ask of him. And what I'm glad about actually is that in bringing Aurelien Tchouameni into a more comfortable second six
Yeah.
or second six or lone six position,
Mm,
uh, with his best form in cutting out, uh, you know, defensive transition and
mm,
disrupting the opposition's rhythm. You
and even
actually
his
take a lot of that workload off Jude Bellingham because
even his passing range, Sahil, if you
yeah,
remember the ball he played to Mbappe out wide, insane. And he has done that so many times. If you remember during the break, he played that ball to Mbappe.
yeah.
I think it was last month or something.
Hmm.
So he has looked like he wants to really prove people wrong. Chouameni,
No,
I think
absolutely. And
yeah.
that midfield is all about balance right now because if
Mm,
Chomini actually gets up and puts a hand up and takes more responsibility with
yeah.
balls like that, with his distribution, with his passing range, then that takes a hell of a effort or you know demand of Jude
Mm,
Bellingham or Arda Güler, where they can actually
yeah.
go and focus on the things that that the fans are expecting of them.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
particularly everything that they're good at, because these players, they're playing at such a high level, they're pretty much good at everything. But what do the fans expect of me? What does the coach expect of me? In Jude's case, it's to be in the box every now and then and play a distracting role, or take a man out of the game,
Hmm.
and to put the ball in the net every time there's a loose ball. In Arda's case, it's to actually have the precision and skill to put the final ball in Mbappe's path. And I think those both of those players are able to do what they're doing right now
Hmm.
because we have Kamavinga
Chouameni.
and Chouameni.
Kamavinga has been a good
Yeah,
addition. Good,
yeah,
really, really good
Kamavinga and
addition.
Chouameni doing what they're supposed to do.
Mm. Arda Güler a bit
So I'm not
unfortunate, right?
surprised.
For the Barcelona goal, he was a bit unfortunate. He kind of dwelled on the ball for way too long. I was thinking, holy shit! Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Edge of the
Yeah,
box,
yeah,
play it off, or clear it, clear it, clear it. But a player like Arda Güler, he doesn't want to put the ball.
yeah.
He wants to find the next available outlet. But um,
I
yeah, that
think
kind of I
he
think.
probably thought he would win a foul also, or if somebody would, come in rough. But
Mm,
unfortunately for him, that didn't happen. And obviously, I
mm,
swore at him when that happened. But
yeah,
uh, it's just immaturity that's showing through on the highest of stages.
yeah.
Um, it's not ideal that you have Arda Güler in the ball in that position with the ball at his feet in that position in the first place,
Mm, mm.
right? You
No,
want him to be,
it is by design. I think Arda Güler drops deep, to pick up the ball, and even in sometimes during sticky phases in games, he is an outlet.
mm,
He is supremely confident of progressing the ball.
no,
So
absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
the team relies on it, but yeah, he needs to show a bit more nerve, bit
Yeah,
more nerve.
and Paraman,
Mm,
I didn't say that it was not sloppy. I said that it was unfortunate for us that he was in that position. So it was absolutely sloppy from Arda's end. And like I said, it was extremely frustrating that you give the ball away in that position.
yeah,
Even who was it, Valverde
yeah,
a
it
few
was
games
sloppy. I
back.
mean, we should
Yeah,
we should keep it in the park. It
Valverde.
was sloppy. Mm.
Yeah, Valverde at the end, was it Atleti? The last goal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's something like that happening is so frustrating, especially when we're on the losing end.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Arda Güler's blushes were fortunately saved, but this is a learning process, right? These guys are learning
Yeah.
on the job, like what Poro would say all
Yeah.
the time. So
And the
we have
same
to
goes
give.
for Carreras, like you mentioned.
Mm. Herreras is a defender.
I
He
get
has
that.
to be switched on. There is no room for error. If he's praying and hoping. Like I get it. Xabi Alonso has asked him to press high. Dean Housen as well. If you remember, like Dean Housen basically comes across to the halfway line and completely misses his marker, and then boom, Barcelona is in. That was the first play of the game. So these guys are asked to do some very risky maneuvers. So early into their Madrid career, in high profile games. So they're going to be on the end of some good results. They're also going to be on the end of some bad results. So yeah, the left hand side, I'm not convinced yet. I just hope they play themselves into some sort of composure. Um, but yeah, one more thing. Rodrigo came on. He should finish his chance, man. I mean, this was the perfect game to tell everyone that yeah, like I belong here. Take that fucking chance, man. I know he doesn't get much game time, but 20 La Liga games without a goal, that is insane. is insane. I feel for him. I mean, who will
Yeah,
actually back
it's
Rodrigo when it comes to the end of the summer? And there'll be rumors again that he's going to be sold.
mm,
Um, it
no,
sucks,
exactly.
really.
His goal scoring record, or the lack of it, if I should say, isn't doing him any favors right now, because even if you do want to, make a case for him or his position in the team, then you possibly can't do it on the basis of
Mm,
um, anything other than fair judgment, or what he's done in the past, because his current
mm,
record doesn't
yeah.
um, give him any right to
Hmm.
compete with Vinicius or Mbappe for a
Yeah.
place in the starting 11. I feel the best he can do is make the most of his minutes that he does
Mm,
get through the
yeah.
remainder of the season. And if he does keep getting consistent minutes, even off the bench, I think he will get. There will come a point where he will absolutely make a case for his place in the team. It's not that he's suddenly become an average player, right? And it's not like
Yeah.
he is someone who's just going to lose his ability over a period of time. It's just a matter of rhythm, confidence, match sharpness. Um, and I'm sure there will be communication between himself and Xabi Alonso on these chances where he comes so close and he shoots a tame shot at the keeper, right? Uh, like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
absolutely should be calling that into the far post if it was Prime Rodrigo, but
Mm,
purely because
mm,
he hasn't had the kind of match upness that
yeah.
he deserves.
Mm,
Um, you can't even blame him for not being at his best game.
yeah. Other substitutes, I don't think they had much of a role. Ceballos came in to steady the ship. Carvajal had to come in because Fede, had a knock.
Yeah.
Then he said that he was okay, but then it was
Carvajal
good. I think.
looked. I should mention, Sinead, Carvajal
Mm,
looked pumped to be going on, because
mm,
throughout the last 15 minutes of the first half, he was
mm.
warming up, and then
Warming up, yeah, yeah.
all throughout the halftime, he was also warming up. He's out there
Mm,
playing with the ball, and he looked really really excited to go on there, and
mm,
I feel teach Lamine Yamal a lesson,
mm.
um, because he did signal at something at Lamine Yamal towards the end of the game. So as part
Mm.
of the narrative as well. But yeah, Carvajal was one of the substitutes. So was Gonzalo Garcia, but I don't think he was on the end of any chances.
How do you think Carvel did? Do you think he looks slowly he's getting back to his best? Do you think? I know it's early days. Um,
Yeah.
if he's fit, Fede Valverde, does he still play right back for you? For me, he looked a bit shaky, man, today.
Yeah, and there's not many moments that I would go back to and actually remember, apart from
Mm,
that one shove on Araujo, which he absolutely did not need to make. Like, I think
mm,
he was added to the game purely uh, to add a sense of calm, but he ended
yeah.
up doing the exact opposite, where he made the game more chaotic on both ends of the pitch. Did
Mm,
things that, like you would say, he has no necessity of doing as the Real Madrid captain.
mm,
But purely because we were in a leading position at that time, we didn't mind the extra time wasting, or the
yeah.
extra foul. But it's just he has to be careful with his the kinds of situations that he uh, chooses to do this kind of things
Mm,
in.
yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of I know I didn't answer your question
Mm,
aptly, but I just feel Carvajal needs more time for me to
mm,
assess and judge him,
yeah.
or his fitness for that matter. Because I
Mm,
thought Carvajal was nearly done 2 years ago, but then he went and had that absolutely amazing season where we said it was his second prime, or the
yeah.
second coming of his
The
peak.
gluten-free cow, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled something out of the bag even now at in probably one of his last years at the club.
Mm,
Um, so it's just game time that will allow us to assess him. But I would really, uh, in the ideal world, Fede Valverde is not playing right back for me.
mm, yeah. Yeah. That's a conversation. Does he fit into the midfield? We have had this many a times, but I think we can't really sit here and predict what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
But Yeah, the right back situation is a bit sketchy, but the midfield is kind of looking like it has some sort of a semblance of
Balance, yes.
coordination,
Yeah.
balance, and we look like we have the right mix right in the pot in terms of midfield. But yeah, the right hand side, especially with the Mastantuono equation, the right back equation, and for me the left back equation. I'm really hoping Mendy comes back into the foray and gives Carreras something to think about. Um, yeah, somewhere around
Um,
maybe
but
January,
then,
I can see a proper
but then
rotations happening. Mm,
it's just gonna be it's gonna eventually turn out to be a situation where we play Carreras for most of the games, and then a big game comes around and we panic and we just put Mendy in there.
mm,
Um, so I don't think that's ideal. Also,
mm. I'll be very honest. Carreras has played okay, but he isn't the best left back in the league or the world, and we need our left back
we
to
didn't
be.
buy him because of that. We bought him because
No,
he
no, we
could
didn't.
be
We
he
didn't.
could
But
he could
no, I understand.
potentially develop
Mm,
into a world
mm.
beater. And again, someone in the comments I
He
think mentioned that
he's
he's trying to be
24.
Marcelo. Yeah, but
Mm,
he's not nearly he's still 3 or 4 years away from his prime, and that's why we bought him, because he
mm.
has years in him, and he also has years ahead of him. So
Yeah,
someone in the
yeah,
comments mentioned that he was trying to be a little bit too like Marcelo, and that he should focus on being Carreras himself, which I
yeah.
don't disagree with. Like, yeah,
Mendy for me, if he regains back his form, regains back his fitness, regains back his rhythm, and that's entirely on Xabi Alonso. Whether he trusts him, whether he sees enough in training to give him those kind of minutes. I do think in the big games, especially if it's Hausen and Carreras, they're going to cost us Sahil. Wallahi, 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 they're going to cost us big, big time to an extent where we wouldn't have the luxury of guys like Furman missing 1v1s. So I'll just put it out there, and me, I rarely go wrong with predictions like this because I've seen enough to know what Carreras is about here right
I
now
know
at
you. I know
24
you, Sinead. I also know that you're a
in October.
pessimist.
Yeah, to an extent, but I'm telling you, Carreras needs help. If that means it's Rudiger on the left, if that means it's Alaba on the left playing out of his mind, but the synergy between Hausen and Carreras isn't quite there yet. And Carreras himself, individually, both of them are nervous. It's only natural, right? So we have to really look at how the left back situation develops in the coming months. Um, Ashik was actually mentioning um, Yamal is lucky Ramos and Pepe are gone. Um, yeah. Param was mentioning, Paraman was mentioning, is Fede even playing in midfield? Crazy to say, but really Bellingham, Chouameni, and Gola are good. Um, Kamavinga as well. Ashik was mentioning Trent is back. We can go on a good stretch. Liverpool is also struggling. Yeah, we have to absolutely capitalize all this. The Liverpool is a side that I so badly want to. I want to see them, rot, to say the least.
They pretty much are in the worst form they have been in a while. I
Mm.
think they've lost four on the
But
trot, or is a three in the trot? On the trot.
four on the trot. But we
Oh,
don't
it's
play them
looking
for two
dire.
weeks,
I get that,
so
but you have to
some
look ahead.
things can change. It's Anfield. We have won there. Before a 5-2 comeback and whatnot, but we also did lose 2-0 last year. Although we were in
Yes.
in a good moment then. But yeah. Um, Ashok was mentioning this is the kind of performance that we can build on, and if we can build on this, I can see light. He says, yeah. Paraman was mentioning if Trent is playing, I think it's better to have Mendy on the side. Yeah, Trent. We all know what Trent is about, especially defensively. He's decent, but he needs help.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, if even if Trent was fit, I wouldn't, in my right mind, start him for today's match.
Trent. Okay,
Trent, yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm. Mm. we have a great alternative for LB, but he isn't a natural left back. Kamavinga, I think he's mentioning. Yeah. Well, well, we had many questions, right, coming into this game. Even last week, we were kind of wondering, are we going to be up for it? Are we going to be the team that you know says, yeah, finally we have found some sort of a mix that can work, and do we find the necessary leadership in moments in phases in games where we needed the most. And I think we dug in. We were ready to get our hands dirty. Hausen, for once, he wasn't the chill guy. He was going to the ground, winning some crazy, crazy tackles. So I love to see all that. I love to see more of that. This team has to be built on getting your hands dirty. At the end of the day, the only guy who shouldn't be getting his hands dirty probably is Mbappe. Because he does the talking on the other side of the pitch. But the rest of the Viniciuses, the Jude Bellinghams, Pede, Chouamini, Kamavinga, all these guys, they have to be ready to basically put their head, put their body, put their fucking cross on the line if it comes to that. Because if we can't actually dig in when the tough phases come our way, we can't really be asking for big titles here. um, but yeah, enough promising signs for me to sleep happy tonight. Any last words, last comments, Sahil?
Certainly, I will also be sleeping a very, very happy man tonight, because any big game knows that Real Madrid fans, myself including, had before the game like this were subdued by this performance and by this result. But this certainly doesn't mean that our season, that La Liga is in
Hmm.
the bag, or that we're certainly winning, or on the track for silverware this season, because there's a long way to go, and things in a long season can, change really, really quickly, because
Mm.
this same 11 is not going to start start all the remaining games. So I
Yeah.
think there's still plenty of things for Xabi Alonso to uncover. I think we address most of those criticisms, and I think we do in every podcast
Mm.
um, that we discuss. And yeah, just a big thank you to Ashik and Paraman and everybody else in the chat for joining today.
Yeah. Big up the chat, big up people tuning in later on as well. I always big up our audio community. They have been a backbone for the last 3.5 years, 3.5 4 years, I should say. But yeah, thank you for always making this a two-way street. This pod wouldn't be the way it is if we couldn't have civil conversations about the game. Yeah, man. We might differ in our opinions at times, but yeah, it's nice that we have good exchanges all the time. On Instagram DMs, on the Spotify comments and whatnot. It's good to see that people sometimes have insanely good takes when it comes to uh, the team we love. And yeah, we would like to see more of that. So yeah, comment, like, share, subscribe. We are on the road to 4K. So if you have any friends who kind of likes listening to Madrid pods and whatnot, tell them about us, and yeah, ask them to give us a chance, because we might have some decent insight that probably they would like in the life. Because I got into pods and the whole sports journalism side of football because I like to hear what other people had to say about the stuff that I was interested about. So yeah, quickly, Xabi Alonso's Madrid so far: 13 games, 12 wins, 30 goals scored, 11 goals conceded. Top of the league, 3 out of 3 wins in the Champions League. And it's just the start. I think it's
If
more
you
than
put
what
it
we
like
could have
that,
asked for.
if
Mm.
you put it like that, there's very little to complain about. But
Yeah.
we've watched all the games today, and then we know that there are
Mm.
a lot of technicalities that this squad under Xabi Alonso will have to work on.
Yeah, for sure.
Results aren't everything, because this is
Mm.
short term, right? We're
Yeah,
thinking of Xabi Alonso as a long term fix for our the issues that continue to persist after 2 years of Carlo Ancelotti, 3 years.
100%, 100%. And he himself, I would think Xabi Alonso is a very self-aware man because I've seen him as a player and he didn't shy away from a confrontation or from a battle.
Absolutely,
So I
yeah.
would think he is very self-aware, and he himself admitted that this is a work in progress. This is one game. We can be
Yeah.
happy tonight, but there is still a lot of work left to be done. So I like the transparency. I like the honesty. We just keep going, and yeah, onwards and upwards, I guess. Big up our sponsors as always, Talksport and Fanatics. Go check them out. The links are in the description below. Watch out for the La Liga preview. I think we're playing Valencia at the weekend. I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's a Saturday game. But yeah, boys. Until next time. Ala Madrid.
Hello, Madrid boys. Madrid.